What will you try to accomplish in this upcoming legislative session in 2016?
Well, so the student privacy bill that I did last session was a study. I wanted to push the Department of Education, the State Department of Education, into looking at where, doing an internal audit, if you will, where they're doing well, what they need to improve on. They've come up with a series of recommendations based upon that, on that study. And the Student Privacy Act that I'm going to pass this year will actually put into law those guardrails, so that we can't just be collecting all sorts of information that are both relevant and irrelevant to public education. In addition to that, I have a bill called the Longitudinal Data Management Act. And the longitudinal data is basically, if you collect information from public education and from higher education and from Division of Workforce Services and possibly Tax Commission and law enforcement or whatnot, and you compile that, it can become a very good predictive tool for policy-making decisions. But the problem is there should be some opt-out provisions. There should be participation, authorization, and full disclosure. I mean, as we're heading down this information highway, it can't be the wild, wild west. We have to have protocol and policies and procedure for how we're going to deal with the public's information, and they should have a right to access that. In addition, I've got another improvement to education, a dual pathway called the Utah Apprenticeship Authorization Act. And in essence, it's going to allow juniors and seniors who have certain skill sets, who want to go into certain fields, that they can go and get an apprenticeship. It's a 4-year program that will allow them to basically get an apprenticeship certificate, to get real, not only the theoretical that they get from school, but real actual practical application in real-world industry, like Boeing and maybe Microsoft or Domo or some of these other medical assisting. And they can actually get an apprenticeship certificate that is the equivalent of both a high school diploma and an associate's degree. And they do it and they get paid to do it, and they come out with no debt. And then obviously some additional movements towards the next bill that I have in mind is to do some economic development incentives, improving that process. I mean, our area has been one that has benefited a lot, but we have to make sure that we're being fiscally disciplined and smart with those resources. And then in addition to that, transportation funding. This area is just booming. We've got to recruit the businesses here, but we also have to provide the infrastructure so that they can thrive once they are here, as well as our citizenry being able to get through to their own jobs without having too much difficulty. So that's what I've got on my agenda for this upcoming session in January.
And all these things you all work on simultaneously, or is it you do one and then you can move on to the next?
Oh, yeah. We only have a 45-day window in this session. It goes from January 25th through March 11th. And it is like a sprint that is nothing else I've ever experienced. So yes, I am working on all of these simultaneously, and it's a fine line in juggling your own bills as well and shepherding them through the process, as well as managing the other bills that you've got to vote on both your committees and on the floor. And it's always a balancing act of making sure you shepherd your bills through, as well as being prepared with the latest versions to vote informed on all the bills that are going to come before the floor or to a committee. So it's an interesting process.
Do you foresee a lot of opposition, or are these bills fairly easy to pass, just because it seems so beneficial to everyone?
The truth is if your bill is easy to pass, it probably doesn't have much substance. If your bill is difficult to pass, it's either way too ideological that you'll pigeonhole yourself and won't get it passed, or it's because you're negotiating and you're actually working through the process and making sure that all sides are not happy, but that you're moving the needle in the right direction. If everybody gets everything they want, then it's not a good bill. If everyone has to compromise a little bit in order to move the needle a particular way, then it's a good bill. So I do envision some opposition, but I also know that I've built a really good framework in negotiating with the parties, and I think that I'm going to have a lot of success this session.